Once again, the title if it's not obvious, character names, what is the protagonist, what's the antagonist, what are their faults? What are their weaknesses? You know, if that's a driving mechanism, you say that before you start talking about your story, but then put it out there. What are their faults and weaknesses? The longer you've thought about that, the deeper your characterization is. And then again, tell it like it is in real time. All right, so then there's another subnote for telling the story as you're pitching it, as if it was in real time, stems from the idea of seeing the animation done before you actually do any of the animation. You're seeing the squash and stretch. You're seeing the camera shake. You're seeing the camera move. You're seeing everything in real time. And so therefore, when you're pitching it, try to pitch it as if it was in real time. If it's 1.5 minutes, then that's how long your pitch should be. There's no use in over-explaining everything. And this is the whole idea of me propounding on that idea that you want to try to stay away from too much dialogue. Now, I've been really tearing apart Rick and Morty, and it's just American anime. Oh my God, there's some really great animated sequences for sure, animated shot after shot. But then they go into the talking heads, just like you heard Achu talking about a couple weeks ago. It is basically, some shots are extremely limited. Oh, by the way, one of my best friends here in the city, he's a physician assistant. I don't know what happened to me. We were talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and he hates it. It was like, what? How could you hate it? What? I'm gonna cross him off my list. Okay, let me just say this before we start. But no, I'll do this when I'm doing the project 3. Christo, stop drumming.
I'm not doing anything.
Oh, sorry, it's me typing. Forgot to mute.
Damn it, dude.
Aaron,
Got
stop
me in
it.
trouble.
All right, so I think that what we'll do is we will let Jesse decide whether we want to go in alphabetical order, A to B, A to Z, or Z to, what do you want to do? Do you want to start? We could start with Jesse or do you want to go, who wants to go first? Jesse, do you want to go first?
I could go.
Sorry, Brooke.
I'm shaking in my boots.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'll play it. So it should be uploaded to your Project 3 final board, and I will share my screen, and then you talk through it, okay?
Okay.
Give me one moment.
There are placekeepers.
Yeah, it helps in the control of things. It does. You don't get too out of hand. And because of that, what we will do on the roster, we will start with Jesse, and then we'll go backwards. How's that, Hannah? Is that okay, Brooke?
I mean, I'm in the dead middle, so it really does not impact me at all.
Not really. Okay, so Jesse, ready?
I think so.
Screen, and go.
Okay, so my pitch, I'll put my face on screen. My pitch is for a project called Entropy. It has one central character named Meatball Mulligan. He comes into contact with many people in his house, in his apartment, that are having kind of a wild party. And as we kind of survey from the kitchen to the living room, we see that there are different activities happening where in the kitchen, there are 4 people playing a game of poker. And we'll see them kind of breeze by. And in the living room, there are this jazz quartet who are kind of having fun around a speaker. So the scene opens outside of a Washington, D.C. Apartment building. Shafts of rain fall against a gray sky. The main title appears as we come into the apartment building. The title appears with the location, Washington, D.C., and the time, 1957. We come into the apartment through a window, and we're in the kitchen where several characters, 4 characters, are playing a game of poker. We hear them, one say, "I'll take 1 card." Another one says, "I'll take 1 card," and another says, "I'll take 2 cards." Then we go into the living room where we see that there are 4 jazz musicians kind of huddled around a makeshift amp with a speaker mounted inside of a trash can with a tube amp, and they're listening to classical music, actually, which is sort of contrary to what you'd expect. And we see in the background, Meatball Mulligan is asleep. And meanwhile, these guys are getting pretty raucous, and they're smoking joints, and they're tapping the ashes into the amp and watching the ashes dance and play on top of the amplified speaker. So you see, here out a bit further down. Yeah. And then that's supposed to be a hand coming in and ashing the ashes on top of the thing. Then we come in to see Meatball Mulligan kind of passed out. His eyes are closed, he's not dead. And suddenly he springs awake as the Mussorgsky classical music has a big cymbal crash. We see him bolt upright, and the guys all kind of laugh at him. This guy says, "Hey, Meatball, tea time?" And no, how many times I have to tell you guys, not at my place. And geez, Meatball, you're no fun. So then they have a bit of a conversation, kind of have it out. And then Meatball Mulligan decides to leave. What does he say? He says, "Hair of the dog, only hope. Any juice left?" And then Duke says, "No champagne, I don't think. Case of tequila behind the icebox." And then as he leaves the scene, Vincent puts on a new record, and Paco begins to dance outlandishly. And that's pretty much the end right there.
Oh, I didn't go fast enough.
I think I was, yeah.
Okay. Okay, clap, everybody. Clap. I don't have my things. Clap. It's really strange that I don't have that little thing when I'm hosting the screen. All right, so I have a couple notes for you. The first is, I think that it's kind of extraneous or extemporaneous that you've gone from just a light blue kind of brushy thumbnail kind of art to drawings that are more finished and more refined. And really, I think that the board is going to be better and clearer if you were to just draw more clearly in pencil and not worry about the finished ink and paint. I think you spent a long time doing that, where it probably wasn't really too necessary. So we get in, I think that your establishing is okay. You've got a high camera here, which means that your characters are disjointed from the audience. But then you repeat this same pose of this guy here and these 3 guys here, And I wouldn't recommend that. I think that as long as you've got motion happening within your board panels, don't worry about the ink and paint and trying to use that same kind of composition for another story panel, unless you're cutting back to it. In other words, like in this panel 12, it's the same camera angle as it was in this one, and as it was in panel 9. And I think that that's not the best express of camera or visual storytelling. And so this is a really clear example of defining the style, the line style, in more an illustrative kind of way in panels 9 through 12. And then you cut to panel 13. And because these two images are different enough from each other, we're not quite sure if it's these two characters or not. I mean, we could guess, but just to be clear, I think that you would want to keep the line style the same and don't worry about the ink and paint. All right, and so then you do close-ups. I think that as long as you do have dialogue and you were putting this together in either Photoshop or InDesign, you should have just put that dialogue right under the middle of the story panel. Just put it in there so that everyone knows what's going on. And then you might need extra panels. If you see that one character or another is really expressing themselves in an exaggerated form, then you can really get their eyes to pop out or really smack down on the table. I think that these little lines right here look more like part of the actual speaker rather than sound waves. I think that you could have used like the ripples or little shock waves coming off of it. There's like a hand-drawn cartoon language to showing sound, showing camera work and sound. All right, then I think you fall into the same idea here with using this same head in multiple shots, but you just kind of finish the eyes. And because of that, I think it just looks a little unfinished. You've got this character here lounging on a couch, and I think that it's not consistent that you have him, almost completely finished. He's done, but we don't know if he's magically standing on one leg or if he's actually lounging on a couch. We really composed that shot. His head is tangent to the edge of the screen in both of those two panels.
Yeah.
All right, as long as this guy is smoking a doobie, doobies are white.
Well,
What's,
Because
No.
isn't that a pencil?
well,
no,
right,
they're joints.
because it's yellow with a red thing, it's a pencil now.
Okay. Yeah, no.
That's the iconic.
Although in the era it's appropriate for the time.
Right. But, if you wanted to do that, you could have shown a close-up of him rolling it with the special paper or something. But remember that iconically, if something's yellow and then it has a red end on it, that's a pencil.
Yeah, I didn't want to have it mistaken for a cigarette. So it was a choice.
And
but
it's not.
But I agree.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's a pencil. It's just like this.
Cool.
Pencil. You can't see it. This is a pencil.
Mm-hmm. Doobie number 2.
Actually, that one was canary yellow. All right. So yeah, just you are being consistent panel to panel with this finished drawing over the background here. And I think you might be onto something if you were kind of trying some illustrative kind of stylistic thing of highlighting the characters with some misty atmospheric perspective, even though it's just in a room. It could be more interesting. But right now what you've done is eliminated a midground. So if you're going to have foreground, background, foreground, and midground elements, you should explore that style just a little more cleanly. All right, and then tell me what happens at the end there again. The guys, what happens?
So he leaves, and the guys basically they finish by saying, like, one of the, let's see, the guy Vincent with the jacket without the hat,
This guy?
What is it? The second to last panel.
Yeah,
Second to last panel puts on a record, which I didn't indicate,
right.
and then
And you,
Paco, the guy with the hat, dances.
okay,
and
and so
I
you
didn't do
missed,
the frame body of him.
so just in terms of visual storytelling, you missed that whole point.
Yeah.
You missed the guy putting on the record. And again, this pose is a repeat of this one. And these two guys are over here.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't recommend that. I don't recommend using the same poses in multiple shots. Multiple panels. The whole idea of going to a new panel is expressing motion or emotion or some kind of dynamics. And then you
Yeah.
talked about it. You said it in your pitch that this guy's dancing, but he ain't dancing.
No.
So you got to get him dancing. All right, those are my notes.
Thanks, Billy.
Thank you, Jesse. All right, we are actually going to jump around a little bit. I can handle it today. Brooke, you're next.
Awesome. Okay, let me get my notes in front of me. So this is Basic Witches, and it's about three sisters. Kira, who's the big sister, making her way without magic in a magical world. Alyssa, her middle sister, who is full of magic and also a bit of pretension, and their chaotic little sister, Maggie. And Kira is working on homework, studying in her room when there's a knock on the door. So because she doesn't have magic, she's rigged up all sorts of ways for her to basically pretend that she does. So she pulls on the pulley, opens the door without getting up to find her sister standing there, ready to go outside and practice her latest spell for class. Kira takes one look at her, lets go of that pulley, and slams the door in her face because she wants nothing to do with it. Alyssa, of course, having not being one to take no for an answer, throws the door right back open and tells her, "Mom says you have to take me out to practice." And while Kira is not happy about that, she knows better than to fight it. So they head out to the pumpkin field that their house backs up to, Maggie tailing along behind them, happy as can be. And yeah, Alyssa is happy to have won the argument. Kira is mad at being dragged into this to begin with, and Maggie is excited to be hanging out with her big sisters. So they get to their spot. Kira flops down on the bench, and Alyssa begins preparing to practice as Maggie scoots closer and closer. Alyssa notices Maggie and pushes her just a little bit farther away, takes a deep breath, prepares herself, lifts her wand, and scroll down a little further. There we go. And promptly causes a small explosion, which is why they have to practice outside to begin with. That explosion, of course, as luck would have it, sends a little tiny ball of fire hurling straight towards Kira, who is already not happy about being here. Getting hit by a tiny ball of fire does not make Kira any happier about this situation, and that's the last straw for her. She starts yelling at Alyssa, telling her she's done, she's going home. Alyssa, not one to back down from a confrontation, tells her she's not, and that if Kira leaves, then she's going to tell Mom. Kira is not happy with this either. She grabs the wand, they begin to fight over it. The wand launches them all backward with another blast of magic. And in the chaos, as they regain their bearings, their little sister Maggie, who is the physical embodiment of a chaotic neutral alignment, finds herself with the wand and realizes she now has the power to do everything that she has not been allowed to do at her tender age of 8. So Alyssa and Kira realize the situation they're in, take one look at each other, and run away together with a gleeful and chaotic Maggie chasing after them.
All right, hands, please. Hands for Brooke. Hands. Okay, I have some notes for you. Thank you, everyone. I'm hoping that you weren't worried about the quality of the picture frame. No, I hope you weren't second guessing yourself. I don't mind this. You know, it doesn't have to be some engineering kind of 16:9 drawing, as long as it's pretty close and your compositions are there. What I would worry about though is that you have a fairly simple drawing set. So in other words, you're not like laying down a line of action with a rough and then putting a tie down and a clean line on top of it. You're just going for more of a stylized kind of line. But when you do that, I think that you've given yourself a little moment or two to color in this character's hair with the bun on it. And so be consistent. Whenever she appears, it should always be colored like that. Even between panels like 9 and 12, just go that extra few seconds and really kind of fill it in there a little bit. All right, so I think that there's a couple of story structure things here that you might want to address.
Mm-hmm.
And one is that this character doesn't want to do this thing that she's going to do.
Yeah.
Yes. So she should be in the back.
Okay.
In this parade, she should be in the back. The little girl is really happy. She should be in the front. She should be in the front by an extra meter or two. She's like really happy. And I think you've got the idea of the slouch, the grumpiness, and don't be afraid to put her hands in her pockets. And then I think that what you want to do is you'll also want to look at the silhouette when you're doing that. So don't just put the hands in the pockets, get the elbows to break the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And a really good, yeah, like that. Wait, what? What am I spending my day looking at? All right, I don't know why I can't, hold on a second. So I posted a couple of things to the storyboard, and that was this one, where they're talking about Belle in just a regular, typical pose, and then showing what a better silhouette is going to bring to the narrative, to the story, to the drawing. There's
Mm-hmm.
negative space in there. You can see that she's actually reading a book. There's ruffles in her dress and all of that. Actually, I posted just a whole bunch of stuff here. Just the over the last couple days, you know, and my favorite is this little silhouette thing. It just makes perfect sense. A reminder that you should be watching Las Cuerdas, which is a wonderful 3D animated film. And then this one, where there's a global perspective in this drawing here, and it's just astonishing that you've got all these vanishing points in one drawing. All right,
Mm-hmm.
so a couple other notes for you. And I think that in panels 16, 17, even 18 in here, you could explore some sort of pan. You can explore the idea of starting with the little girl who I was suggesting being out in front, and maybe the camera follows her really quickly as she leads them. And
Mm-hmm.
then it slowly pans left as they're walking to the right.
Okay.
All right, so then this becomes confusing because you've got the character in panel 22 with very dark hair, and then you cut to panel 23 and she's got white hair. So just be
Okay.
consistent. We are assuming that this character here has black hair. So if you're going to put tone on the board, then just be consistent.
Okay.
All right. So then I think that your actions are starting to work. I think your camera might be just a little close in panels 28, 29, 30. If they're not too close, then you can actually just pull out to reveal this action. And the reason why I'm saying this is very clear because she's going to be raising her wand. And this is a very clear example of white hair, white hair, white hair, black hair, and then white hair again. Just be consistent. If you're just doing line drawings and it's just lines on a white background, you're not going to get in trouble. But because you're putting tone in here, you are getting in trouble. But the other thing that I was going to say is that she's lifting up her hand to bring up her wand. And because you didn't pull your camera back, she's doing this. You know, she's got her shoulder really tight and she's got her wand like this. I think that you want to act it out and be more natural. You want to have her raise that wand and act it out. You know, get in the front of a mirror and just act it out. And so even if I raise my little wand like right here, you can see that it's a considerable distance away from my head. And so this is looking cramped. I think that if you pulled your camera back, you would have seen a better pose. All right, so we do have some sort of special effect here. I would just suggest going and looking at the Joe Gilland book, J-O-E Gilland, Gilland, for how to draw special effects. You're in animation. Special effects is its own little wing, but you can get a lot of mileage out of what story panels look like just by investigating what cartoon explosions look like.
Okay, awesome.
All right, and then I think that there is a little bit of extraneous magic with this little fireball. And by the way, on Imgur yesterday, it was like a very clear recording of ball lightning. It was the most clear recording of ball lightning I've ever seen. That was just a segue. And so, all right, she gets hit. I think that you need to react. I think that this action of hitting in panel 36 is fine. But I think that you could improve this. You know, this thing just kind of squashes her. And then I think that it bounces. And then I think that staying in the side view doesn't give you a chance to explore a 3/4 reaction. Because you're just all in silhouette here, and I'm sorry, in the side view, and it's just not as easy to throw a good pose if you're in the side view. All right, and then there's a fight, and the fight causes more of an explosion. And I think that you got the idea here, but I think again you just need some better suggestions of what this cartoon magic should be like. And Joe Gilland has a bunch of it. If you want, what I can do is you have to remind me because I have an effects board in my Pinterest, and I can just invite you to see that board. And you'll see that it will improve the dynamics. Okay, so all this happens. They're recovering. I think that while they're recovering, you could use some close-ups.
Okay.
You know, let us see how they are feeling about this. And then one technical thing here, your younger girl was on the left, and then the middle girl was in the middle, and the older girl who didn't want to be there is on the right. And so, and I think that's all fine. But this shot here, panel 50, she should be pushed more to the left.
Good.
And then this character here should be more to the right, more almost in center, just so that you maintain the rules of proximity, because when you cut back to panel 52, you're in danger of getting lost.
Okay.
If you go back to your map and you really look at it carefully, it's not wrong, but it could be better if you force her to screen left, get the middle girl in the middle, and then in this panel 52, maintain the screen left. And then again, in panel 52B, compose that a little better. And this is a cheat. I don't know what you did. It looks like you drew these and just twisted them or something. In panels 60, 53, 54, 55. Did you just draw these this way?
Yeah.
There's a better way of drawing running.
Okay.
This looks like you just drew a pose and twisted it in Photoshop. Did you do that?
No.
Yeah, and all of them. So there's a better way of drawing running. All right, and then my last note is that she chases off her two older sisters, and then there's a third explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so you're just gonna hide that from the audience about what actually happens.
Yeah.
Does everyone die?
No, probably not.
No, just another witch's kind of accident.
Chaos. Just chaos.
Just some more chaos. All right, so it's not technically a cliffhanger. You just finish it off screen. If you're gonna do this, I would recommend, if you're gonna add in color and shading, you gotta put faces in there.
Okay.
In my animation class, they always talk about building a pose and then getting in front of a mirror and putting the faces in there. So your character design is all about the eyes, all about the face. So if you've already gone the extra step of thinking about color, there should be eyes and nose and mouths in there. Okay, thank you, Brooke. Clap.
Thank you.
Brooke, everybody. All right, we're going to jump around. We're going to Nathana. Nathana, you're up.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello, Nathana. How are you?
I am tired. How are you?
I'm extremely tired. I win. Ha ha. All right, talk to us. You don't have to read the script, but I gave you notes.
I don't know. I tried to put it all together, but it's
Yeah.
not on the right order. So
I
the
think
last page is actually the first one.
So we'll just go here and we'll go up.
Yeah. So the story it's called The Midnight Plan, and the first storyboard, it's the parents, they're fighting, and the boy is watching them fighting. And then on the third one, the boy actually shows up, and then the parents get very angry at him. And on the next one, the parents grab him by his hand. And then next, they kick him out of his house, and then throw his backpack out of his house as well. And he gets surprised about it. He gets very upset about it. And then he started to walk away from the house with nowhere to go. And then the next one. And he keeps walking and walking, and then he sees a library, and then he decided to go inside of the library to kill his time. And then he searched for a book, and he has a hard time trying to find a book. He sees different options, and then he finds this one called The Midnight Plan, and he thinks it's very interesting. And he started reading it. And the book was about fighting a plane that takes you to a different place. And he gets very interested about the book because he didn't know where he was going to, and he was just kicked out of the house. So he thinks the book is real, and then he decided to follow the instructions of the book. And then he grabs the book and he put it inside of his backpack, and then he leaves the library, and then he starts to walk. And he walks through the whole day, during the night. And then he finally found a place, and then he sits and he waits, and then he looks at the clock. And because in the book it says that you need to be there at midnight, so that's why he's looking at the clock, and it's midnight. And then he sees a light, and he gets curious about the light, and then he finally sees the plane, and he gets excited to see what's gonna happen next, who's gonna come out of the plane. And then he sees a very different creature coming out of the plane, which looks like an alien. And he gets very confused because he was expecting something else. And then the next, he gets very scared when he sees the alien coming out of the plane. And then he decides to run. And then he runs away, and he did not get the plane.
Okay. Hands for Nathana, everybody. Hands, hands, hands. All right, I have some notes for you, and you know what some
Okay.
of them are going to be. First of all, I think that if you're going to use your cell phone, you're going to have to test your camera.
The lights, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're gonna have to hold your cell phone up, and you have to take a picture and a look at it. Oh, I got a big dark place here.
Yeah,
The best thing that you can do is use multiple indirect light sources from the left to the right, open window, this open window, because
Yeah,
this is not a very good presentation.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Right, and then the next note is that whereas Brooke didn't get in trouble for her artistic borders, your borders are drawn a little bit more technically,
Okay,
either with a straight edge or with a template that you might have made, but they're the wrong size.
okay,
You need to be 16 by 9, and we did those numbers for you. 16 by 9, 8 by 4.5, 4 by 2.25.
4x2, okay.
And then because your camera is tilted a little bit, these storyboard panels, which should be 16 by 9, are now trapezoids, which affects your composition. And,
Yeah.
and your exposure is not really that great either. All right, so remember, the next note is that every single drawing you ever draw needs to have a line of action. Even
Okay,
if the character is standing kind of straight up and down. All right, and then I think that you have to think about this. Every time you're using the word, the letter N, you write the word M.
uh-huh.
And is there a reason for that?
Well, this is damn, so it's the letter M in the end.
So the title of your story is The Midnight Plan.
Yeah,
Claim.
this is an N.
It's a what?
So the plan is an N, and the midnight is an M. It's just the way that I write it.
So, but then you do it in your direction over here too. You write, every time that you're trying to write the letter N, I see the letter M, accusing them.
Well, the M has three. You can see there is three mountains on the M. The N has only two. You can notice that.
I know,
Right.
but it looks like the kid looking, like it looks like a spelling error.
Oh, okay. Well, it's an N.
Like you write the word walking right here, but you use the word M, the letter M.
This
When
is not
you're-
M. This is an N. This is the way that I write my N.
When you're, I think when you're doing cursive, it has 3 bumps, but when you're doing printed, it only has 2 for M and 1 for N.
Oh,
That might be.
Yeah, because it looks like you have spelling errors in just your pencil work. All right, so remember that each shot really truly needs a sense of perspective, and I think you're missing that in almost every shot. So like I've said in all of our sessions before, draw the horizon, draw the vanishing point, draw the lines that make up all the foreground, midground, background elements. Like if you drew this in perspective, this could be like a silo. This does not look like a library itself or a doorway. I think you just need to be much more precise with your drawing. And that's pervasive through the boards here. So a big note for you, use perspective, draw horizon, draw 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective for every single shot. And I think that what happens is that because you didn't do that, panel 16 becomes what is called isometric. And you don't want isometric. You know, Richard Scarry does isometric in Huckle and Lowly Worm in Richard Scarry's children's books, but this is inconsistent, and you do want to be consistent. All right, and then you continue with this isometric. So in other words, if we were looking at this character in the front view, there's no way we could see this desk in the top view. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This desk is not in perspective, so it becomes isometric. All right, and so he runs off. I think your story is actually very interesting, but I think you just need to go at it a little bit more with all the rules we talked about for the rules of cinema, the rules of drawing, the rules of animation, the rules of character design. I think your character design it's inconsistent panel to panel, and we get an idea of who that character is, but I think that you really want to refine it. All right, and then so the midnight plane comes in. And what is it? The camera follows his eaves? What does that mean?
Eyes.
Eyes.
Yeah.
It's kind of, so I think that there's a better way to do this.
Okay.
So here you would, in this panel here, which you have panel 29, and by the way, another introductory note would be you're missing your shot indications. You have the panel numbers, but I need shot indications right here. And then
Okay.
you really should be thinking about the slug as well. One way to do this is to have the ocean and then pan across. So you have a long drawing.
Okay.
And the character would then, or the camera would be going across and then come across this little beam of light. And then you cut back to this character in a medium view, medium shot, and you see him turning his head. That's the best way to interpret that.
Okay.
All right, so then you have a screen direction error of your main character in panel 30 being right here on the lower left focal point. And then the cut to oh no, that's not, I'm sorry. So it's just a little inconsistent because this character, your lead character here is in panel 30 right here. And is this in panel 32 the same? Yeah, it's the same character.
Yes.
But the inconsistency is that you want to reserve this area for your hero. And then when you get to this area here, he's really off screen a little bit. It's kind of irksome, you know. There's no reason why you can't be using focal points in panel 33 for sure. In panel 34, if your alien was really on the right focal points, he needs to stay there. So panel 35 becomes a screen direction error. Actually, you've got two panel 35s. You know, if the alien is on the right, then leave him on the right. If the boy is on the left, leave him on the left.
Okay.
And then the boy would be scared. He would be left, and then he runs. And he can run like this, but when you do this, I think that what you've left us is with a cliffhanger about the emotional content or the emotional goings on in the alien. So what does the alien think about humans if they just run away? You know, it's like, hey, I brought flowers. You know, you could have ended the story with just one simple little visual gag, like that you brought a kitten. Hey, don't run from me, I'm nice. Or you could have been the opposite, where you know, he's like, now the chase is on, and you see that the alien has some weapon or something.
Yes.
But we don't see that. So you need to put that in there.
Okay.
I think that in everything, I think that what you need is kind of more panels per shot to tell you a story. And remember that in any particular shot, you probably need a minimum of 3 to 5 story panels to tell the story of what's going on in that camera shot. and use the letter N instead of M.
It's an N. It's just the way that I write it. But if it's better for you to write in a different way, I will do it.
Yes, please. Or just type it out. So remember, those are all your notes.
Okay.
Okay, hands for Nathana, everybody. Thank you, Nathana. Christo, you're up, man.
Okay, so. Oh, yeah. So, didn't make a huge script or a huge skit, but essentially, okay, so the title of the screen is called Love Without the Crack, because I couldn't think of anything better. And scroll down, please. Thank you. So it takes place at this one called Float. This robot is stuck in explaining. Okay, so basically it centers around two robots, Boopy and Floaty. And Floaty was supposed to Boopy was supposed to take some dude, kind of forgot his name, Greg out on a date. So Floaty opens the door and interrogates Boopy and checks her out for any crack that she may be hiding, and then she asks for her ID, which Boopy doesn't have, and then after patting her down, making sure she's not hiding anything, she tells Boopy to make sure that she brings Greg back at 10:01, or else that she was gonna what was she gonna do? Rip her mechanical parts out. And scroll down, please. Which Boopy, terrified, she agrees to. And that's essentially where it ends.
All right, are you ready for some notes?
I am ready.
All right, I think, and I'm always right, sorry, Brooke, but I'm always right, that you don't need a whole page to do your title screen. Just put your title in with your board panels. If you've got animations going on in there, even if it's motion graphics or the like, then you can just use multiple story panels to animate your title screen. So it's kind of odd to have this whole huge presentation board for just your title screen. So you have a lead character that opens up. There's little love hearts with what looks like it's behind her. And then the
Yes.
camera slips open 180. At least it appears to be a 180, where that character slams open the door. When that happens, you have no face on this character. Because if this first panel, which is not slugged properly, I don't see panel numbers or shot numbers or time indications at all, that when she slams this, we would see her face in this panel. What you should really do is have this door be part of an establishing shot. It's a restaurant, it's a bar, it's a hotel, I don't know. And then this character would walk up to it. And then they would put their hands like they're gonna open it. And then you'd cut to the 180 of the inside of the door with the doors closed. And then you have the doors crash open. And then we would see her face. Are you following along? And then
Yes.
she would enter. And then the next panel would be having that character walk in. And then you need to establish where this floaty character is in that environment so that this first character that we saw can walk up to that person. If you have dialogue, you should have the dialogue underneath the story panels. It's incorrect to be using 16 panels per 8.5 by 11. They should be 4. In this presentation for boards, you should be drawing final storyboards and the presentation be 4 per page. I was very clear in my directions of using 4 by 2 1/4 size story panels. Because you're still drawing thumbnails, you don't have any background or background or midground elements anywhere. You have your characters in foreground and a few doors that are there. I think that you need a lot more panels to tell the story about what's going on. you said things that were happening here that you didn't draw. And that's an indication that these
Then the
thumbnails need
script.
to be expanded before you go into your final boards.
Okay.
If they have a fight and she says that if you're not in by 10, I'm going to rip the guts out of you or whatever, and this character is this shaking, I think that you've left us with a cliffhanger. And or even not even, I think that you haven't even gotten to the top of the crisis in the story yet. So revisit how your story ends, because this is weak.
Okay.
If you're going to do a map, then the plan view of the house or whatever this restaurant is should be a square. Think about it like an architectural drawing. All right, we saw this last week. Christo, everybody put your hands up for Christo.
Yay.
Evelyn, you've given me a whole bunch of JPEGs. Damn it. Evelyn, you're up.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to combine it.
There's a
think I'm
number of
supposed to do
different
that.
ways. You can do it in Photoshop and export a PDF. Christo did his in PowerPoint, I think, and then you
Yeah.
exported a PDF.
I don't know. My Photoshop wasn't working. But okay.
All right, so do your introduction.
Okay, so the title of the story I'm pitching is called Friendship Bound. It's essentially about a boy who's looking for friends. He's a lonely boy. I think I'll just get into the story. Okay, so it opens with Tommy, the protagonist. He is playing with video games in his room in the dark, and then who opens his door but his sister, Lila. She opens the curtains, lets in some light. Next,
One
please.
second, one second.
Oh, go ahead.
It's strange. Which one's the next one? This one?
Yeah, they should be numbered.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. And Tommy is he is disturbed by the light, and he's saying, "Why are you bothering me?" And she says, I'm sick of you staying inside. You should go outside and play, but you're moping around. You know, go make some friends since you're lonely." And then Tommy says, "I want to, but I'm afraid. I don't know how to make friends." So next, Lila gets sad. She thinks for a moment, and then she snaps her finger because she has an idea, and then she leaves to the garage, which is her workplace. So she tinkers about for a while, and then she is finished. She grabs Tommy from his room and then shows him a ball. And well, first she picks it up, throws it at his face. He cowers because ball to face. But it hovers in front of him before hitting his face. And then she explains, "It's a robot ball. I made it for you." And then she says, "Its name is Tama," which is ball in Japanese. And then I made up some acronym.
Sure, why
And
not?
then, yeah. And then he's like, "Okay, so what do I do with it?" Great question. Next page. She says, "Well, just go outside. It's been programmed for you. It's going to help you make friends. You just play with the ball and magic will happen." It's essentially what she says. So she slams the door in his face. And so he goes to the park and does what she said. So he has a ball. So he's going to go find a basketball court. But who's at the basketball court but our main antagonists, Billy and his friends. So they're a bunch of teenagers, and they basically say, "Get out of here. You know, this court is taken. It's our territory." So he's like, "Okay, bye. I choose life." So as he's trying to leave, the ball stops him because it's been programmed to help him make friends. So it's actually pushing him towards them. And sorry, next page. He's really trying to go against the ball. He's like, no, stupid ball. You don't understand. These are not the friends I want. And so it actually brings him to the feet of Billy. And then playing, sorry, I'm trying to leave, but then a fly flies in his face. He accidentally throws the ball in Billy's face, and he looks up, pretty scared.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Yeah, so Billy's mad, and he is about to give him the business. But, Tama to the rescue, because it's also been programmed to, just help him out. So it's beats him up, kind of. It just takes him in the air. And his friends are all in shock. So is Tommy. And then Tommy also tells the ball to put him down, because don't kill him, which is what it does. And he is kind of comatose from that experience. And his friends, think he's like some kind of Jedi, has magic or something. So they flee with their friend. And then he's just at the basketball court by himself. And then in walks a girl who says, do you want to play ball? And that is the friend he made. The end.
Yay. Hands for Evelyn, please. Hands for Evelyn.
Yay!
All right, so I have a couple of suggestions for you. And I'm going to give you your notes, maybe just a little bit out of order, but this panel, this set of panels, and this set of panels are where the ball comes to life. And I think in order to really show this, I think that what you want to do is you want to, because this pose right here is kind of incorrect. Let's see, I'm in the right. Yeah, I got the pencil. This looks like he's actually trying to push the ball forward. I think so if I erase that and I say the ball is coming this way, then the force on this character would be his head, and then his line of action would be like this. His feet would be like this. You see that pose?
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah, I
I'm
see that.
recording this, by the way, so you can always go back to this. So if the ball was here, and so the progression would be as if he was in a normal neutral pose, just standing there, his hands by his side, and then the ball comes into him and it does this, that's going to show force. You could even show force to the point where you have, how far could that ball go? The ball is going to really drive it fast. And you could say, oh my God, there's his line of action now, and his head's like this, and now his feet are dragging behind him. Right?
Yeah.
You put the elbow out,
Yeah.
and now he's grabbing the ball. And then you can show that the ball is like going to relax then, and then the ball is here, and then your main character is now standing. His hands are on the ball, and he's still kind of a little off balance, both mechanically and physically. And then these guys here are going to go, what the heck's going on? I think that this idea of showing weight and force is what you were really going after here. I think that if you thought about it even just a little bit more, after this pose right here, you could have these guys being astonished because now the ball can do whatever it wants. Now the ball is programmed where your lead character here is now just kind of standing there like, what the heck? And maybe he's in more of a neutral pose anymore, and the ball goes up and it hovers, right? And it can go left and it could go right, and then it can come back down again. And you could have a whole sequence here of the ball just becoming alive, becoming animated. So, and then when you get to this panel here, I think that it's good but I think that what you want to do is, and again, I don't think we saw all of this last week, but I think that what you want to do is end with the pose that you were just at. So in other words, get this character on the focal point left. And now the ball is over here, and now it kind of hovers up, and now it's over here. And so that could be a nice little staging thing for you where it's like, whoa, you know, and you can draw like funny little lines here. And then these guys are like, what the heck is going on? Right?
Yeah.
Are you following? Because if he stays on the left focal point and he's just standing here doing his thing and he's minding his own business and his hands are at his side and the ball is hovering first before the ball takes an anticipation, before the ball goes backwards and then swoops up to smack Billy in the face and then goes off screen. And then this pose right here should be the result. His line of action should be like this. You know, his one foot is up off the ground. This arm is like this. He's like, whoa, what the heck happened to me? Right? So this pose is wrong. If this ball is going to swoop up, smack, and go that way, his reaction is going to be backwards.
Yeah, I see
So those are the main notes for you. The next note is, please find a way to put this into a multi-page PDF because it's hard to kind of scroll with it. It takes just almost too long for the page to load, even though it's there. This sequencing is good. Your drawings are great. They're very consistent. The story itself is kind of interesting. I don't think that you need to show us more of the sister creating the ball, right? Because I think this is enough. I think but I think that what you might want to do is allude to this just a little better. And what I mean by that is show and end with this panel here, end with this. And I think that it's correct to have this tilting camera. It's absolutely correct because that shows tension. That's correct. But in order to lead up to this, she throws the ball. And I think what you missed are a bunch of story panels in a mid shot. Now you have her throwing the ball. So get her line of action, get her one foot like this, her other foot back. She's just thrown the ball. And your Billy character, or whatever his name is, he's just going to be neutral. And the ball is going to go here, right? So the ball is thrown. The ball starts from behind her shoulder like this. So this is position for the ball number one. And then she's going to throw overhand, and the ball is going to go right here. That's position. It's going to stop. And so in a series of expository drawings, have what this ball does. It stops. It goes to the left a little bit. It goes up a little bit. It goes down. It does a loop, right? Do you see what I'm going here?
Yeah, I could have.
And then what happens? And then you cut to here, and then you have another pose of here of him turning his head, looking at the ball, and then you cut to an ECU of him like going, what? Right? You know, a jaw drop. What? What's going on here? And you missed that. You missed this whole fun little action here of the ball animating and looping around and bouncing all over the room. And then him going, and, you know, or you could do this first, right? You could have this happen, this panel, right? And then he's like, oh my God. And then you could have all this happen, and then, but you missed this. Again, there's number of different ways. Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, InDesign, Photoshop. There's a number of different ways to take the drawings that you've got and present them a little better. As long as you've got these drawings and they're really nice, you've got too much white space. So scale these up a little bit. I appreciate that you put the slug in there. But I think that you just want to go back and relook at this. This is exactly what you don't want to do. You don't want to have one panel for 4 seconds, another panel for 4 seconds. I'm assuming that that's what 4S means.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's way too long. 4 seconds is an enormous amount of time. That's 96
Oh,
frames.
okay.
So not only is 4 seconds wrong, because this is where the action is happening. This panel here might only be 8 frames. And this panel here might be only 8 frames. That's only 2/3 of a second. And this panel here might be 1 second. So it's, and then you want a variation in the timing itself. All right, so
Okay.
again, it's looking really good. There's a lot of care and a lot of art and a lot of thought put into this. But those are my notes. Thank you, Evelyn.
Okay.
Hands
thank you.
again, hands again. All right. Sierra.
Hey. So my story has 3 characters in it. It has the villain, who is the zookeeper, and he's kind of a super villain biologist who comes up with evil schemes centered around animals usually. And then there's the protagonists, who are Professor Horse and Professor Seahorse. So the opening shot is of a computer screen with the words Eric the Half-a-Bee and a loading bar. And you zoom out so that you get the back of the zookeeper's head as the loading bar keeps going. Then you get a side view of the zookeeper's head and you see a beehive in the background. And then you get a shot of the loading bars almost done and he's about to hit enter on the keyboard, and then suddenly, bang, the door slams open and there's Professor Horse and he's pointing at the zookeeper. He's all, "It's over, zookeeper!" And the zookeeper looks up and he starts laughing maniacally and he says, "Oh no, it's only just begun." And as he laughs, bees start to swarm from the hive, and he presses a button on a control that he has on his hand that causes a hole in the ceiling to begin to open up as the swarm of bees begin to lift him up off of the floor. Professor Horse and Professor Seahorse are in the doorway looking kind of astonished, and Professor Seahorse says, "We're gonna need a bigger bug zapper," before being grabbed by the swarm of bees and dragged off screen. Then you get an establishing shot of the area above the lab, and this giant half-a-bee creature begins to crawl out of this hole with Professor Seahorse in hand, and Professor Seahorse has his bug zapper and he's attempting to zap it with little to no effect. Meanwhile, Professor Horse is in the lab and he's frantically searching for some clue as to how to stop this giant half-a-bee that's now gonna rampage through the city. And under the desk he finds a piece of paper with "My evil plot" written on it. And he's, aha, I've got it. And so at this point, Professor Seahorse has broken free and he's flying around this half-a-bee, shooting it with his bug zapper, when he gets whacked from behind by the half-a-bee and he flies towards the camera, lands on the ground. And as he gets up, he shouts, "Hurry up!" as he then flies off to continue fighting the half-a-bee. And Professor Horse is all, "I'm working on it! Hold your horses!" as he begins pouring things from beakers into a test tube. And then he sticks a cork on a test tube and tosses it into the air. And the test tube goes up. As it reaches the top of his arc, just in time, it's grabbed by Professor Seahorse, who then flies up dodging flailing limbs from the half a bee till he reaches the top and he pours the contents of the beaker onto the half of the bee, which begins to dissolve as Professor Seahorse floats safely to the ground. And once Professor Seahorse has reached the ground, Professor Horsehorse comes up to him and he asks, "So what happened to the zookeeper?" And Professor Seahorse replies with, "I don't know, I guess you could say he buzzed off." And that's the end.
Okay. Sarah, everybody. Hands for Sarah. All right, so I have some notes for you. And I've been doing this all week where I'm drawing on my Wacom tablet, but I'm trying to draw with my actual graphite pencil because I keep them right next to each other.
Oh yeah, that's a
And I
mood.
don't have graphite marks all over my Wacom pen tablet because I'm always like, you always kind of shift your pen to find the little button so you don't click it. And I'm like, hey, the button's in there. Oh, I got the wrong pen again. All right, so I have some notes for you. Not too many, but just some notes. There's a couple of things I think that will make this a little more clear. I think that you've got your panel number, which is fine, but you need your shot indications. You know, what is the shot 4A? You need your slug. You know, just put it in there, 2.5 seconds. I think these things are missing. They're missing from every shot. You can also put some arrows indicating action. There's no harm in this. If you didn't want to disrupt this image here, you could just give yourself a little thumbnail right in between here to say that this character is going to go up, this hole is going to open up. And so you could just do like a little notation for yourself that the hole is opening up while this character is being drawn off screen by a bigger arrow. Yeah, again, I think that the little bees are working, and I think that you can put like little dotted lines to show that they're actually moving. I think that would help. The other thing that might help is that, and you can do this, this is certainly not against the rules or anything, but let's say that like this little bee right here is going to buzz his head like this. So he's just going to go buzz, 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 and you just have a little loop of an arrow like this on your board panel. And when you do that, you can cut to this. How does this character react, right? So give us a close-up of this character. And so the bee is just come this way, or it's just come this way, and then show us his reaction. Go to a close-up, you know, oh my God, you know, and there's extreme worry here, right? So draw those little eyebrows in there, get your eyes working, get the mouth working, and that's this character. And then you can immediately cut, and so this character was in the center, so keep him in the center, but then the bee was off to the left, so then you can have like a close-up of the bee, which is actually smaller, and then you can have his like maniacal expression, whatever you want it to be, you know. And then this will give you a chance to really see what the bee looks like. You know, is it a drone? Does it have no expression whatsoever? And that idea can be terrifying all by itself. Just the idea of a dangerous bee flying around, but it doesn't have any direction whatsoever. It's kind of like our government is right now. It's also a chance for you here, and again, I'm drawing like these little bee parts to show a good silhouette about whether that bee has like a weapon. Do they have a katana? It's up to you. You know, once you start drawing this drawing, you're like, I wonder if the bee should have a weapon. You know, you get in there, yeah, the bee has a stinger for sure, but there's no reason why a bee can't have a katana. And you're right, I've been watching Samurai Jack too much. All right, I think I saw one more thing that I wanted to make a comment on. Well, in general, I think that you still need to work on the half a B thing, because it doesn't look like half a B yet. You just have to figure that part out. All right, and then the only thing that really caught my eye was this, my evil plot. I think that you do what my editor friend calls, you hit the low hanging fruit, because that's what he found, the plans, right? He found my evil plot, my evil plan. But I think that what might work a little better for you is if you try something like a waste paper basket, and you try, so instead of this, have a shot that's like right before it, where under the desk, so get your perspective where there's the ground plane, that's the seam between the ground and the wall, and there's a waste paper basket under there, and you can see that there's a bunch of paper in there. And then maybe this one is just kind of sitting on the top of it, it's a little crumbled up or something, so that it's not quite so obvious that it's just lying on the floor waiting for the guy to pick it up. And then I think that instead of making it low-hanging fruit, you know, you can do a couple of things. It's like world domination. What is this evil scientist's objective? Remember, we talked about that last week. What's the objective? And so just answer that question really quick. What is the evil scientist's objective? Is it world domination?
Nobel Prize.
Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah, like he wants to be famous type for his biology stuff.
Right, so that's what should be here. Right? Nobel
Right.
Peace Prize, Nobel Prize plans. And then, because this is a good thing, this is a positive thing, you almost owe it to your audience to say, you're gonna, so this is the horse, Professor Horse, right? So he sees this and he picks it up and he reads it. I think that you need to show him picking it up and reading it. Just put him on screen, right? Show him picking it up and reading it like this. And you don't have to you don't have to do a full sequence here, like, you know, crawling back up and standing up and holding it and reading it. But I think that it might work in silhouette. And then you cut to a close-up in 3/4 of him. Like, what is his reaction to that? He's just read this. If you spend a little bit of time here, he's trying to win the Nobel Peace Prize. This is a good thing. So here you do a change of expression where he's found this thing and he's not sure what it is. And then he realizes that this professor is risking everything to try to win this prize, including the safety of everyone around him. And that doesn't have to be anything more than just a few changes of expression and nuance on the Professor Horse's face. Now, I like this little action where he's trying to do all these building of the antidote, if you will, with his mouth, because he can't use his fingers. I think that's good.
Yeah, that
But it
was
also,
one
I
of
think
the-
that
yeah.
you lost the opportunity to put the camera on the other side so we can see what he's doing. Okay, those are my notes. Thank you, Sarah. Clap, clap, clap. All right, let me take a look right here. Let's take a break. Hannah, I'm just going to let that sit right there, Hannah Joy. But it's time for a break. Take 10, everybody, take 10. Okay? Okay, Hannah Joy. Hannah. Hannah. Hannah Joy. Hannah. Hannah. Somebody wake her up. There you are, Hannah. Ready?
Do I just start?
Please.
All right. So the title is That's Rare, and there's two characters to my story. Neither of them are super evil, but I guess the antagonist would be Hun, the guy, and the protagonist would be the main character, the girl. But she also kind of creates tension and issues that probably slow things down as well. So strengths and weaknesses of the characters. Ren, which is the girl, she's like headstrong and impatient, sometimes oblivious, but she's savvy. Han is calm, supportive, and protective, but not an outdoorsy person. So that causes issues for him. Let's see. So these are just the character stuff. So you can scroll past all this stuff because it's just recap of everything from the past weeks, including the thumbnails. So it's probably about 6 pages of that. Okay. So got an establishing shot of a worm's eye view of the jungle. Panel 2 is sort of like a calm, the breeze goes through the tree leaves, and then panel 3 is a slow pan down, followed by a zoom into the title card. And then it's a kind of a little bit of a quick zoom going into the letter A, as we go into the next shot. So next page. So page 2. So the establishing shot is like a clearing just before the jungle, and they're just waving to the people that helped them get out to this remote location. Then Ren reads the map and works out where they're going, while Hun is distracted by something flying around. He ducks down and tries to wave it away, and it's a very large mosquito. And then he has to kind of fight off with it, trying to keep it away from biting him while Ren reads the map. We zoom in on the map and work out where the characters are kind of heading, and she quickly points in the direction that they're going to go. In panel 15, the mosquito kind of sneaks in, and I guess Hun is distracted by that. They start walking scene 3, I think. Yeah, so they start walking through the jungle, and he gets tangled in some jungle vines. And for this shot 17, is sort of like a slow pan to the right. Then you quickly zoom in to the danger, which is the mud. And then you fast zoom back to his expression, which changes in panel 18, where he's kind of surprised. He falls over and then quickly rushes over to try and stop her from stepping in it, but she changes direction at the last second and he falls in. She continues on into the jungle, looking back for a second, and then the mosquito comes floating back in and he gives it an evil eye. Time passes, and Hun is worse for wear. He's covered in mud and all sorts of weird things from the jungle, but Ren is completely fine, and Hun's kind of like a bit depressed about everything, and the mosquito is still bothering him, so he has a little bit more energy to kind of wave it away. In panel 29, he's sort of weak, and it's at this stage that Ren finally realizes there's a mosquito following them around. So Hun sits down, and Ren's upset about this because she wants to keep going. She gives him a tug on the arm to try and encourage him on, but he's had enough, so he shakes his head. And she gets frustrated, so a very quick zoom after a pause on her expression down to her foot where she stomps her feet. But he is adamant and he doesn't want to go any further. So she gasps and sort of, I don't know what that expression is, blows the, I don't know, tongue or whatever. And page, is it 8? Yeah. So then she walks off in a huffy, sort of stomping her feet, and leaves the scene. So we're in a new scene, and she's looking at her map, and we zoom in on it, and she's tapping where her location is and realizes that she's only halfway to the goal, which is actually finding this plant. I should have mentioned that at the start. So a drop of water hits the map, and she kind of is a bit surprised and then looks up, and then a whole downpour comes down, and she uses the map to protect herself and starts trying to find some better cover. There's an establishing long distance shot of her on an incline, and then she slips and falls, and then she falls faster, her backpack rolls after her, and then she does a tumble roll at the very end of the slope, and she leaves the, she tumbles out of the screen, and then we have a zoomed in version of her on the ground and a slow pan out to kind of establish some dramatics. As she lays in a puddle with the map all messed up. She gets up, or sits up, or slightly sits up, and sees that the map is next to her, and she grabs it and realizes it's in a mess, and then she realizes where she had fallen from and kind of puts her hands up to her eyes because she doesn't know what to do, and then she starts to cry. She gets up all mopey and starts heading, she leaves her stuff in the mud and walks over to a sheltered spot and sits down. Some time passes and the rain has stopped, and she's kind of oblivious and just kind of moping, and then our character Hun enters the screen, and then she's like, surprise, and she gets up excited, and he's got a bunch of mosquito bites on him. It's probably hard to see at this distance, so she's happy and jumps up and realizes that there's the plant is stuck to his backpack with all the other weird things that he's picked up along the way, and now they're like happy, and she waves it in the air, and we zoom in on the leaf, and then we zoom in even an extreme close-up of the text which is in the veins of the leaf, and that's the end. The last two are just like a fade out, and the little mosquito comes back in a credit roll sort of thing, where you see that the mosquito has like got a big belly of blood now. So it's just like a little ending thing.
Gross. I like it. Hands for Hannah Joy, everybody. Hands, please. There we go. All right, this is excellent. If you wanted to know what to do, this is a good thing to do. Everything is there. Shot numbers, scene numbers, pans, tilts, dollies. The only thing that really caught my eye is that little barb on the end of the mosquito's nose.
Mhm.
That's terrifying. I mean, it's one thing to be bitten by a mosquito with that, with a long needle, but in this one you've got like a fish hook on the end of it. That's like a spear. Geez, it's dangerous. And this,
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's like when it gets closer to biting him, it's sort of more visible sort of thing. Like, I don't know, it just looks even worse than.
so you've got it here. It's technically just a little inconsistency, but it's not, because in panel 28 you have like these sharp barbs, right?
Mhm.
Sharp nose. But in panel 29 you can see that there's like a little javelin on the end of it. There's like a little arrowhead, a little fish hook thing at the end. I mean, that's terrifying. The same thing as panel 27. So either choose one or the other.
Okay.
I think that it's more terrifying to have the little arrowhead, the little hook at the end of his beak, because that means when he goes in, he's not coming out, right?
Right.
And I don't think that it's a story point, a thing that you have to go with, that if the mosquito does have these little barbs on the end of his needle, that they stay in him.
Mm.
That every time he gets bit, the mosquito is there. So he's got hundreds. By the end of the story, he's got hundreds of them. It's up to you, but I think that you might have hit on something that is humanly terrifying, to have a mosquito with that little barb on the end. The poses are great. The expressions are great. Camera moves are great. Nothing is really catching my eye. You've got the shots broken down. It looks like you could just animate this. Excellent.
Yeah, I kind of cut them out and flipped through them. There's a few that kind of jump a little bit, but it's more towards the end, I think.
Yeah. You could have a hand come in at the very end and squash the mosquito and have blood all over the place. All right,
Yeah.
thank you, Joy. Excellent. One moment, please. I'm gonna have to go backwards here. Yeah, something happened with my. Oh, geez, oh man. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna. All right. Shit. There we go. Okay. All right. So Yola, you are up.
Okay, let me just close the door really quick. Okay. Can you hear me good? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I might cut out. I don't know. My internet's pretty bad. So I don't really have antagonists, but if there were, I'd probably say it's Oddball and Doll, because they're messing with the dead. So the story is called The Dark Clover, and it's basically just two siblings and an armadillo just going to dig a grave to see if they could wake the dead. That's just the math. Okay. So there's a sibling shot of the cemetery, and they're just walking the path towards the cemetery. They enter the cemetery and they find a perfect spot to dig. The armadillo is holding the flashlight while they're digging the grave. and they throw the shovels when they're done. And Oddball's checking the time to make sure it's 12, like make sure it's ready, that the skeleton's gonna come out. And so Doll throws open the casket or the coffin, and they just see a stiff skeleton, and they're like surprised. And so Oddball takes a closer look, and he's like, why not just slap it? Maybe it'll wake. And he slaps the skeleton really hard, like the teeth fall out. And then he looks really close, doesn't move. They're still confused. And then he just shakes the skeleton. It's in shot 14 where he's just like shaking him. And he shakes him so hard that the skeleton head literally like does a 360 and pops right off. And then Doll is just like done. She's just like, let's just go. This is like not gonna work. And so he helps her get out of the grave. And they get out, and then this is where the skeleton wakes, because he's like, the coast is clear. And so he's like looking for his head, can't really see because his head's like in a corner. But he finds it, and then he puts it back on, he spins it, and he like clicks it right on. And then he looks to see if they are still out there, and he does see them, but he doesn't do anything too obvious. But when he moves his hand to get a little bit closer, he like breaks a branch. I want to do like a close-up shot, but it's whatever. And then Oddball hears it because he's like the closest to the grave, and he hears like this loud snap. And he turns around, and there's just like an arm, like a skeletal arm near the grave. And he picks it up, and he gets an idea. He's like, hey, look, Doll, let's play fetch with Stiff. And so he throws the arm, and the armadillo rolls and then jumps. And then it shoots back to the skeleton just sobbing. He's like, I lost my arm. And he gets so angry that he just slams his coffin shut. And then the dust blows, and then it's the end.
Hey, hands,
Pretty
please.
short.
Viola. All right, so I have a couple of notes for you.
Yes.
You started out by drawing this, and you didn't redo the compositions. Like I remember I had asked you to.
Yeah, I was just
16
like,
by 9.
yeah, I was just like, I messed up. It's in centimeters. Like, I didn't want to go back to it.
Well, it's just that you have to stay consistent, because this panel looks 16 by 9, but this one doesn't. So, and I would suggest that, you know, as we go through the next project and the final project, make sure that when you're doing thumbnails, you do them very small. But then when you're doing board sizes, stay at 4 inches by 2 1/4, and then that way you're not going to get into any trouble.
Okay.
Because and I didn't expect you to redo all of these. I appreciate the shot and the panel, but I'm looking at this just going, these seconds indications are good for you to start thinking about, but these are long shots. Remember that your ASL is 3.5, so if you've got 3, 2, 3, 4, 6, these are really long shots. And in order for this shot 8 to be 6 seconds, you would really, think about how long 6 seconds is.
Yeah.
Ready? Go.
Wait, am I supposed to be counting?
That's 6 seconds.
Oh, okay.
It's way too long. So it's good that you thought about it, but now kind of started envisioning the film is going to be moving a little bit faster. Okay, so
yeah.
now you're back to more of the correct ratio. If this is a vertical shot like this, then you would want to indicate some sort of pan on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that you need to do that. I think that if he's looking for his head and he's going to click his head on, I don't think that you need anything more than just another
Like the
kind
same?
of panel like panel 23. Because I don't know what you're thinking here, because if you were going to start with his leg bones and then pan up to this, I don't think you need to do that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you don't need to do that. All right, and so you've got a very definitive line style happening where I'm going to never be able to convince you to draw loose. You're always going to try to draw tight and clean like this, which is fine, and your story is working. Remember that that there's a story misconstruct, if you will, that whenever you hear a twig snapping, it's usually because someone's stepping on it.
Yeah.
So in order to pull that off, I think that you would want the skeleton to maybe not snap the twig. Maybe maybe the snapping is the skeleton trying to climb out of the hole,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
the snapping is actually the arm coming off.
Okay.
Like you do like a close-up of the shoulder. You have to look at me in the preview. See
Okay.
me in the preview up there?
Yes.
You do like a close-up of the shoulder, and then the shoulder, like you have these little shock marks that come out from the shoulder, and the snap is actually coming from the arm coming up because he was trying to pull himself out of the hole.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would work better.
Yeah,
Just
that would work way better.
that works better visually. So I like this ending. I like how you're like, hey, let's play fetch with the armadillo, which is completely out of character for an armadillo, which is fine. But the only real true issue is that I think that when you're starting out this pan here,
Mhm.
there's a couple of things that you can do. One is that don't make this a vertical shot. And what I mean by that is that you could have the horizon way off the top of shot. Well, this says shot 10. Scene 2, shot 10. But I think that you need panel numbers. Because
Oh, yeah.
you've got scenes and shots, but you don't have panel numbers.
Yeah, I don't.
I think that would be more interesting to have a horizon that's about right here,
Mm-hmm.
about a third of the way up, and start out close with the armadillo so that we can see him and his design.
Okay.
And then the armadillo, like looking, is like a dog. And then you can cut to a close-up of him like, what? What do you want to do? What? And then you cut wider, or you pull out wider. He's like, oh, you want to play fetch? And you do that thing where you're like, come on, boy. And then he takes an anticipation and throws it.
Okay.
And you can do two things. One is that, your camera can just pan with the throw of the bone. So even though he throws it here, you could have a camera move that just follows the bone. And then there's another camera move right underneath it where the armadillo is like running and he's looking up. And you could cut between those shots. So you have panel, let's just say that you can imagine that there's a, let me draw this for you. So what I'm suggesting is that there's like a panel down here and a series of these 3 or 4 shots where the armadillo is like, well, what do you got there? What do you got there, mister? You know? And then you cut between these 2 shots. You know, and then a whole expression change where he's like, what? You want to play catch, you know? And then you pull out wider here where he takes an anticipation to throw, and then you have a series of a camera move like this. So, and these are all numbered, right? So this would be 12, whatever it is, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. But then you can also have these shots where the armadillo is running and getting more excited, and then just cut between them. So you have panel 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and then finally panel 34 where he catches it and rolls. So what you've got here is a nice build for that idea. You just have to do it. And then that lends itself really cleanly to the skeleton just going, oi, they're playing with my arm, and he's going to slam and close the lid. So that would be my suggestion right there. Otherwise,
I like that.
good. Thank you, Yola.
Thank you.
Hands for Yola.
Thank you.
All right, now I have to figure out how to get out of this thing here. There we go. Okay. Andrew.
All right. Could you zoom in a little bit?
I can try. It's going to cost you money, though.
All right, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So the name of my story is Good Enough. There are 4 different characters. There's Asshole, who's kind of a jerk. There's Idiot, and there's Butthead, who's kind of loose-lipped. And there's also Mr. Clown. And that's the person kind of occupying the house, kind of haunting it. And the story kind of starts with these 3 boys looking at the haunted house, and then they decide that they're actually going to go in and see if they can see what it's like inside. So they have a little bit of a dialogue as they're going up the steps to the door. Asshole knocks on the door. I think that's a little bit further down. The door opens, and Butthead says, "Oh, the door is opened." And Asshole decides that they can go inside, so they push open the door, and they stand looking down this dark hallway, and they see the light coming from one of the rooms inside, and they go inside the room, and they see this knife right away, and these big boots, and this face of a clown, and this big belly. And then they look, and they're startled. And then Mr. Clown says, "Welcome, my name is Mr. Clown." And he talks about his childhood, about how his mother wanted so many good things for him, and how she was so lovely, and how she wanted so many good things for herself, how she always wanted a clown for a child, and how he was never good enough until he bought a clown suit. And then, oh, I'm sorry, somewhere in there, a gate drops from the entrance. I forgot to say that, locking them inside the room with the clown. But then they get back to after the clown talked about his childhood and the clown suit and everything. They're chewing, and finally, Mr. Clown and the 3 boys are sitting at the table, and they're eating cookies together, and Mr. Clown asks who wants more cookies, and that's the end of the story.
Okay, Andrew, everybody put your wet fat peppers together for Andrew. It's just a couple of notes for you. I think that this is really strange and odd, and I mean that in a really good way. So I think that there's a couple of things. I'm just going to do annotations like right there. So let me just get this going. I think I mentioned this either last week or the week before, that this is always going to read better if you get this guy, give him a line of action. Let's just say that we keep this guy the same, right? We just keep him the same. But then make this guy taller by a visual degree. Just make him taller, even skinnier, right? So that the silhouette is completely different, right? I think that that helps your story immensely, even if his head is a little bigger too. And then make this guy having a smaller head. And which guy is this? On the right.
I think that's Asshole.
So that would be fine, right? So you just make him smaller, and then assholes are always really big. And so give him like a pudgy kind of build. So work on the character design in silhouette. There's something that happens here. I think that you need a progression shot where this door is there's, you know, it's here, right? But when you cut, so have this door coming about halfway down. And then you need another panel with it all the way down, and maybe even little camera shakes on the end of it. So then here, I think that your clown should undergo a change of expression. He's gonna start out neutral. Maybe his eyebrows are a little alerted, right? Maybe his eyebrows are like, oh, I didn't know that gate was there, and do like a couple of inner voice things. Oh, I'm sorry. Did that voice come down, or did that gate come down? And then you can like pull his eyebrows down about here, and then all of a sudden you've got a change of expression. COE, change of expression. Even to the point where now it might be really creepy to have his eyebrows go back, and he's got this like really sinister little smile. So instead of being angry, he's like happy. All right, so then I think I want to just do one more thing, and that is that I think that what you want to do here is just hide the knife. He's got it, so have this hand behind his back. And I think that one way to really prove the acting is to build this pose right here so that he's stomping across the floor. So the line of action is going to be like this. And so get that foot out here, get this foot trailing behind it, and then put the volume on him. You see the difference in the pose? Even if he's in 3/4, then put this hand behind his back. Get this elbow out so he can't see the knife. Get this hand out here so he can play with it, he can gesture it. Then put his little collar on him. And so this is just working on the poses in silhouette like this. This is a much better dynamic pose than what you have. It's just kind of a strange thing. Now in this one, if this is going to be the reveal of the knife, then I think that you would need a panel 30 and then a panel 30A where the knife comes up. So just, and he can follow it. So then remember your silhouette. So if he's got his little thumb right here and his fingers and his arm is going to have a bend to it, then get the knife out here. Get that knife out here. It's a better silhouette. When you do that, you might say, oh, I need to move my camera out a little bit more. All right. I think that what you want to do is make sure that what's reading here is that the dialogue is the actual story is being told by the clown. And as he's talking about his mother or whatever it is, it just wasn't good enough, just wasn't good enough. The boys need to undergo some sort of transformation where they're afraid that he's going to try to kill them. And then the transformation would be is that he's so sad they're worried that he's going to try to kill himself. You know what I mean? It's like, because why else would they, would he offer them cookies? Is he going to fatten them up to eat them or something? And there's always some unresolved to what is actually going to be the ending of this. But I think that the ending should be, I don't think the ending should be, do you want more cookies? I think that they should all be terrified. And you should show this here, right? You know, it's like, don't have them eating the cookies yet. Just have them like, please sit down, and have them all sit on like one side of the table. Because there's no way that this kid would want to sit next to the clown. Please sit down, please sit down. And then the whole thing ends with, can I give you some cookies? And then that's creepy enough. You know, why would the kids want to eat cookies from some creepy clown that they went to this house to be in? And then you can leave it for the audience to think about whether they're going to actually do that or not. That'll just improve your story. All right. Again, thank you, Andrew. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, continuing. Christine,
Hello.
go ahead. Go, go, go.
Oh, okay. So my title card is The New Kid, and the protagonist is the teenager in the first panel. His name is DS, and then he's trying to find his way to school. And on the way, in panel 2, he's like looking at a map, but he's not paying attention to his surroundings. So then in panel 3, he accidentally trips over the cowboy's shoes, and the cowboy's the antagonist of the story. And then he trips over and he's like, ouch, that hurts. And then the guy wakes up and he's like really angry. And then he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, are you okay? And the cowboy is like, you're fresh meat. And he gets like really mad. And then he gets up and he tries to chase the main character. And so the main character runs away and he goes to the train station. And then on the way, he's like giving his mark card or his train station card to the guy. And then he sees the hand coming from. And so while the train station guy is checking his card, he sees that it's open and he runs instead of like getting his card, and the guy is like, oh, you forgot your card, Zenny. And then he sees the cowboy coming in. He's like, hey, wait a minute, that's illegal. So the train station man chases the cowboy instead of going for the boy. And the cowboy finds the boy, and then karma happens and he ends up tripping over some random guy's shoe in the crowd. And then just as he was able to get into the train station, the door closes, and then the cowboy is like really angry and mad, like hitting the floor, like, oh, damn it, I missed it. And then he's like, and the main character is like, oh man, that's such a relief, it closed. And then he ends up going to school in the last panel.
In the end. Okay, hands for Christine, please. All right, so a couple of pointers for you. 23 panels, kind of slim, you know, I was looking for 35 or 40. And I think you could have done that. I think that you could have had operationally more poses, like for instance, panel 14.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that you could have like continued his action to the right and his hand goes down. And I think that this isn't the way the station master would go to hand somebody their card back. You know, if you could, like, hey, you know, you think about that action, because that's really weird to hold a card. No one would hold a card like that, and so you shouldn't draw it like that either. All right, okay. So I think that the actions here are okay. Panel 4, panel 5, panel 6. It's good that you put the seconds in there. And remember that, you know, 5 seconds, especially for this, which is supposed to be a terrifying shot where he's being chased. This maybe would be 1.5 seconds instead of 5.
Okay.
So I think that you might be working in Photoshop.
I did Sketchbook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think your drawings are, I think they're okay, but they're too small.
Okay.
I think you're working in basically thumbnail size. And for the next project and the final project, please remember to just draw it 4 by 2 1/4. Because
okay.
You'll get more definition. You'll have a chance to play with your line weights a little more. Each shot should have perspective in it. Each shot should have background, foreground, midground elements in it. Yeah, and then the other thing is just a reiteration of any one particular new shot needs just a couple of panels to for us to understand what's going on in that shot. In other words, panel 13, you have 2 poses in the same story panel, which is fine. You can do that, but you can end with a panel 13B with the station master turning his head and looking to his left and going, hey, you know, reacting. By the way you've drawn it, there's a chase sequence here, and I think you need to work out a little bit more carefully where the cowboy actually trips and where he falls to, because the way you've drawn it, it looks like the cowboy gets cut in half.
Yeah, okay.
And that's up to you if you want to take that suggestion. It would be more of a gruesome end than you've got. Andrew likes it. Look at him. Andrew likes that ending. And anything is possible, right? Because answer that one question about what it is that you're doing this storyboard for. What is it about this that has to be animated? Even if it was just the tip of his finger, right? I mean, you're not going to cut the cowboy in half, but if he loses a finger, that might be more interesting of a story than just pounding on the ground.
Yeah.
And then if you are going to say that he's going to school, then you need to show him going to school. So that part, you can't just like assume that now he's okay and that's the end. You have to actually take a couple of story panels and show him going to school.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Yay, hands.
Thank you.
Fernando.
Hey.
You like how we're going all random today?
Yep. So I can't come up with the titles, but I don't want to leave the title card empty. So I put that.
All right.
So the story is mostly about a farmer and his donkey returning back home after a long day of work, but they decided to stay in the cave until the heat dies out. And so the first thing you see two vultures on the tree both looking at the farmer and his donkey walking home, and it zooms in to the farmer and the donkey, and then you can see up close of them exhausted and sweaty in the hot heat. The farmer, he's coughing too much and he wants to get a drink of water, so he grabs his canteen, takes a sip, but realized it was empty, and he drops he tilts his canteen to drop some water, and the water evaporates from the ground. So he puts the canteen back in his bag. He looks at the sun, and then he slowly looks down to see the mountains until he sees a cave in the distance. He told his donkey to look, there's a cave in the distance. We should go over there and just rest until the heat dies out. And then I put a clock swipe transition. So they made it to the cave. They look inside. It's darkens. It was very dark. They both turn to look at each other to think it's a good idea, but since it's hot outside, they have no choice but to go in. They go inside. The farmer took off his hat because he realized it's cooler inside, and he mostly put his hand on his forehead and wipes the sweat off. He wants to find a place to rest, so he did found one, and he's sleeping on the floor. He tied up his donkey on the rock. He laid down and went to sleep. The donkey just there awake alone, and so he realized he was hungry, but he sees a piece of corn sticking out of the basket. He tries to grab it, but mostly the rope is stopping him. And all the way deep in the dark in the cave, you see the first person view of a frog, of the toad, just looking at them. And then you see the donkey was able to grab the corn from the basket. He puts it in the ground and start eating it until the toad uses his tongue to snatch it away. And the donkey woke up, alerted the farmer about the toad. The farmer turned around and he saw the toad there. He quickly got back up and told the donkey to stay back. And you see his hand next to the gun holster. The toad lunges. The farmer was able, drew his gun fast. He did multiple shots, but he missed it. And you can see the reflection of his eyes as the reflection of the toad going bigger and bigger. It landed on the farmer. He lost his gun, and you saw in the distance, you see the donkey was angry, is angry, so he went to save. He come to the rescue to save the farmer. The farmer he found a way to farmer got an opportunity to counter the toad's attack. So he grabbed both of his arms and he has his legs on his stomach so he can launch him in the air while the donkey quickly turns around and kicks him. And it's a drum action right here when he creates a big line and then boom, explosion. Some action scene. You see the smoke coming out of the cave. You can see the smoke moves from the side, so you can see the farmer there. And then it shows like I think a somewhat crater look. And all the way in the end, you see the toad laying down. They both walk towards the toad to see it, and it's dead. And then in the end, they just fist bumped.
Okay, hands for Fernando, please. Hands. All right, so great drawings, very comic book style. I love the little take in your drawings about the little frog getting bigger. What you could do here to really accentuate that idea is to actually 1 second. I'm going to pause for just 1 second.
Sure.
I thought I heard somebody was waiting to get in, but okay. All right. So in this panel right here, you have shot 43, but what you really mean is panel 43. And so what I would suggest is, just call this 43. Just get rid of the SH because SMH means shot.
Okay.
But keep your shots in order. Shot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just figure out this is one shot, this is another shot, this is another shot, this is not, and then go all the way back to the top of your storyboard and make sure that the shots are done correctly. Now, I always like to put panel number on the left and shot numbers on the right and scene numbers in the middle. So this is basically all the same scene, this whole story.
Okay.
It's not like, well, you could consider the inside of the cave as a separate scene. So you could go, say, outside the cave is 1, inside is shot 2, and then back outside the cave is shot 3. You have a total of 3 shots. Anyway,
Okay.
what might help accentuate this is that instead of just one panel number 43, that you do a regular. So just draw the guy's eyes with, and there's his eyebrows, and they're just pupils. And then so this is panel 43, and then do 44 where the pupils actually start looking more like Rick and Morty. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
they're like, like this. And then panel 45, that's this. So panel 45, they look like frogs, right? And then panel 46, this whole pupil is then dark, and you could even see the frog coming outside the eye. So this progression here, and this is way too long. 4 seconds is way too long. So this would be like a half a second. Then this would be 8 frames. This would be 6 frames. This would be 12 frames. And the final where the silhouette of the frog with his little feet, right?
Yeah.
That might be a total of 8 frames again. You add these up, that's one particular shot. And that would just help accentuate this. All right, and then the frog lands on him. You could have the gun tumbling. So you could have one picture of the gun here, and then another picture of the gun here. And so I drew it this way, but it's actually tumbling this way. And then like this, and then it lands. And you could do that in one panel for whatever panel 49 that might be. This is great. I love this. So what is the horse doing here?
He broke his mouthpiece.
Oh, his bridle.
Yeah.
Oh, so I think you need to show this progression. You need to show it breaking and then falling off, and then a mid shot of the horse actually getting away, because you cut from this to a ECU on his feet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to do, I don't know why you're doing that. You're showing that he's getting away. I think you need a mid shot of him actually getting away.
Okay.
And then, oh, there's somebody coming in. Now where'd they go? Where'd they go? All right. So what's happening here? The frog has jumped on the farmer, the cowboy, and so what's happening here? In 40.
He charged. The donkey charged towards. He charged to like save the farmer.
Well, this looks like an explosion, so I'm not sure that this is in the right place.
Okay.
So, and then you've got panel 48 where there's a frog's eye view. And in 49, they're wrestling. And I think you just need to go back to your map and figure out how the horse gets over there to kick the frog.
Okay.
Because it's just spatially, it's a little confusing. Shot 47A, it's a little confusing. Shot 47A might happen right before this explosion happens inside the cave. And so that's just a little confusing to me too. Why did the frog explode? He's just an exploding frog.
Yeah, just action purposes. Like.
I think that you just have to reconcile with yourself visually how the frog explodes and why it explodes, because in your staging, let me just go backwards a little bit. Your characters go into the cave and they progress from the left to the right to get where the frog is, right? And then, so even in this panel here, the slightly to the left is outside the cave. And so in here, in panel 48, if the horse is over here, that's the outside of the cave. Behind the horse is the outside of the cave. And so this is the horse's POV. If he kicks the frog, he's going to kick the frog going back deeper into the cave. Then, yeah, you could have an explosion coming out of the cave. But I think that it's just a little confusing. This shot here might need to just, so it's just confusing about whether the frog is deeper inside the cave or more outside the cave.
Okay.
It's just a little confusing, that's all. This shot right here, and then your progression to the ending. Otherwise, be very clear about panels and shots. Because right now, you have shot, but the actual numbering is panel numbers. And you shouldn't do that. Panel numbers are just sequential. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you need multiple panels to show the donkey kicking the frog, then do that. All right, you got it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Fernando. Hands again for Fernando.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, thank you. All right, so Timmy, I saw you show up. Do your board should be in the folder? It's not in the folder?
My internet's messing up. I'm having some technical problems right now. give me a moment. I'm trying to do some stuff. Just go on. I'll tell you when it's there.
All right.
I don't know why it's wrong with my internet.
Aaron? Same thing. Aaron, do you have? I just refreshed, so I don't see that there's a board for you.
I'm still finalizing the storyboards right now. I'm almost finished.
Give it in there. I'll give you a proper grade when I see it.
All right.
Yeah, that's fair, right? All right, Damien? Damien? I don't know if Damien's here. Damien, are you here? And Yalin. Okay. Yalin.
So my title is Arc, and here's my character design. There is one protagonist, which is the little ant, and he do the job of his job was to delivery to people, stuff to people, and the other main characters are those three characters that draw on the draw on the sheet.
Okay.
So in the first is this. I put the title card at the very end for the narrative. I don't know if it would work.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, yeah. So here the little ant worked in the dark, and he picked up a box and started his job, and it zoomed out, and he kept working, and then he reached his first destination, and he rang the doorbell, and then an old man opened the door and doesn't seem very friendly. And he just he tried to pick up the box, but like he seems like having a hard time doing it. So the little ant helped him, gave him a hand, and the old man left with the box and just left the door. And the little ant doesn't care at all and just walked away. And here goes the skin too. Yeah, same process, ring the doorbell, but this time the door has been opened, but no one's there. And the little ant waited for a bit, but no one came out. So in the next shot, he decided to go into the room. And in the room, we see a man with a bunny suit and looks very sad. And he's been crying. And the little ant just walks through him and places the package at an empty spot and just left. And then there's and the door just closed behind him. And he went to his third destination, and this time he's still trying to ring the doorbell, but like the door opened before he even ring it, and then suddenly a box came. Suddenly a box thrown to him, but it missed and bounced away. So the little ant has been scared for a while, but he suddenly continued his job, and he goes forward and reaches the third room, and here there is a page missing right now. I'm still working on it, but like it was a woman who looks crazy, and he kept throwing stuff to the ants, and there are ant bodies and box all over on the ground, and that ant also just put stuff on an empty floor and leave. And there is the final skin that the ant walk, and then he reached the place, and then the skin zoom out. It zoom out, and it shows a little house in a weird color of river, and then it keeps on zooming, and they finally find it out that everyone, those people and those ants, they have lived in the stomach of a whale, and the whale gets swimming on the ocean, and then here goes the title, like Ark, like so this whale is those people's Ark, and that's the end.
Okay, hands please. Hands please. All right, a couple of things. Yeah, it looks like you ran out. You were going right along here, and then your aesthetics change a little bit. So my take on this would be is that if you're going to take this into Photoshop and put any kind of tone on this, that I don't think you want to spend all day trying to separate the purple from the gray with a white outline like that, because that's just going to change your aesthetic. You should say something like this. Just paint the ant gray and the box tan as quickly as you can throughout the whole board. You just want to be consistent. I don't think you need this gray.
Oh, I think this gray is at the beginning, like the ant has walked in the dark.
And I
Like
think
there's
that you need
nothing
a
around. It's,
transition, and you need to have like the ant walking from a smaller place and then transitioning into the light. And so the problem would be is that he's gonna I think that he goes back to that place where the boxes are several times. And so you may want to just either be consistent about him going back to the dark place and then coming back out into the light, or just have it all happen in the light, because what's happening is that he's have a delivery service and he's delivering packages to all these strange people, right? And we don't know why the bunny with the fishnet stockings is upset. He probably knows he's inside the whale. We just haven't revealed that yet. And he throws the box out, and everyone is in kind of this contemptuous, mad kind of state. The only one who is really okay is the ant. And we don't find that out until the end. So there's a couple of things. One is that if you say arc, the actual spelling of arc is A-R-C.
Oh.
But you're also playing on a visual metaphor of the whale being trapped inside Noah's ark is not the same as being trapped inside the whale. If anything, you're visiting like, it might have, I don't think the Pinocchio was the first one to ever use a story be inside the whale. I think Jonah was the first time in the Christian Bible or something like that. So
and I also remember,
that,
I also remember Doctor Who. They also use the whale as the final arc of the last human beings. I really like that idea.
So if it is an arc, then there should be more stuff in there, more people, more animals, and they can just be in the background. They don't have to be midground or foreground characters. I think that they just need to be there. And an arc would be A-R-C, I think. Just double check that.
Okay.
And so the ant is working really hard. But he doesn't even know he's trapped inside this whale. So I think you're just not done. But I think that there's just a few places where you just need to tell a little bit more of the visual story. Like you said that this guy was having trouble picking up the box. I don't think that you showed that clearly. If you just look at it, the ant comes up and then the guy takes the box. I think you need to show more of a struggle with it. And then just be consistent and finish with your panel numbering, your shot numbers, and then it's fine to put the title at the end. And double check whether you want it to be ARK or ARC.
Okay.
All right.
Arc like a boat is ARK. Arc like the geometric shape is ARC.
ARC. All right, so I'll take that comment back. ARK is fine. Finish it. Thank you,
Okay.
Yalin. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Timmy, are you up?
It's uploading right now. Just give it a moment. Sorry.
And Anna and Aaron. We would have run completely out of time if all of you had your stuff in right now. All right, so what I would like to do is let me know if that comes upload, if it uploads quickly, right, Timmy?
Yeah,
So-
I'm sorry.
so-
Yeah, that's the whole reason my thing crashed. I exited the Zoom call because my internet's being really weird right now.
So what I'd like to do is give you, and remember what I had said was that a few of you might have already been working on your next project. And I apologize if this next thing throws you for a loop. Right, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna stop. What I would suggest for you is go on YouTube, just look for any of those, just type in Bird Box. There's a whole bunch of them. There's like 15 or 20 of them. And take a look at movies that only have one shot in them for this next project. And that way you are working with just, there's no sequence, there's no scene. It's just shot one, panel 1, 2, 3, 4, and keep it short. You know, the idea that I said 1.5 minutes or whatever, this is just one gag. This forces you to be creative because you are literally just doing one shot. You might have 34, 40 different panels to show all the action happening. But my suggestion would be is to just do one shot. I'm gonna look for another one that's really great. And I'm gonna let you watch it. It's called Atomic Monsters. I don't know if I've played this one before for you. Have I played that one before for you? I wasn't showing you this. Sorry, I wasn't sharing the screen. So here, I'm gonna put this.
Is there any information on whether or not Bird Box uses puppet style animation or traditional?
It looks like all hand drawn to me. Damn it, it won't let me do the chat for some reason. Somebody look up Atomic Monsters animation and post it in the link in the chat. It should look like this. The very first splash page should look like this. It's a 1 minute 54-second movie, and it starts out black and white like this, and then there's only one shot. And somebody post that in the chat. Now, don't everybody do it. Just let Jesse do it. Jesse, did you find it? No? Hannah Joy, did you find it? Okay, Hannah Joy, put it in there. So Jesse, Hitchcock's Rope, 1970 Birdman, Time Code movies, yeah. So look in the chat, there's a bunch of movies in there that are just one shot. The camera can move around. The camera can pan and zoom and dolly, and that's gonna give you a whole bunch of tools to use. But how many people have already started doing thumbnails for their next project? Good. So I beat you to the punch. And so this project is due, this is technically project 4. And I originally had planned this to be due on November 18th. But so let me see what your idea is, what your character designs are, what your thumbnails are like for this one shot, very short animated thing. And we might be able to get it done by November 18th, depending on how far along everyone is. If you do that, then they'll give you more time for your final. That's the whole idea, right? And so I love this. I just came into my inbox the other day because I subscribed to a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about these. And it just kind of occurred to me, it might be a really fun time in the semester to just do a one-shot movie. 34, 35, 40 panels tops. You might even be able to do it with like 18 panels, especially if it's only like 40 seconds or a minute or something. Look at all those Bird Box films. Look at Atomic Monsters. Atomic Monsters is 2 minutes, but it's just one shot. The camera zooms over and the camera does all kinds of fun stuff in that Atomic Monsters. So that's my suggestion. File updated. All right, so now let's go back here.
Hello.
Yes.
I didn't completely finish, but I can show what I have so far.
All right, talk us through it.
All right, so the story is called Starboard, like a ship, like a direction on a ship. Oh, are you skipping the characters? Okay. Oh, I think you skipped some panels.
They were blank.
Are they blank? What the heck?
Hey, don't be swearing in my class.
What? Okay. Do you mind if I can share screen then? If I can just show it, or?
I'm gonna refresh one more time.
Okay, I think it's a rendering error. That's weird. That's really weird. Okay, but I can just describe the first panels. The first panel.
I'll stop and I'll let you share screen. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, give me a second. Let me.
Okay, you're done. That's 1 second.
Oh my God. Okay. I had to crop them in the PDF, but these are pretty big. Don't worry about it. These are pretty big storyboard sizes.
Go.
Okay. All right. So we got the establishing shot. We're in space. Ship floats past a planet, and the what's it called? The title card appears. We cut to a shot of an interior, and the door opens, and we have our two characters here. We have silhouette shadows of the two characters walking in. We got Admiral Colonel, and then Franklin here walking through. Colonel is talking with Franklin. He's asking Franklin how he enjoys the ship so far as they progress through the corridor. He's going through and he notices a panel on the ship. He turns to Franklin and he's like, "Don't worry about the ship. It's completely reliable," as he demonstrates by knocking on the panel. Turns towards Franklin and says nothing is wrong, and the panel falls down. He notices it, quickly dives down, goes down, grabs the panel and places it back to where it was. He gives Franklin a thumbs up. Franklin looks at him, doesn't care, walks off screen. Colonel is relieved that Franklin doesn't care. Colonel recomposes himself and gets back up, walks out of frame, and the panel falls back down over. Colonel is running to catch up with Franklin because Franklin just walks too far down the hallway. The man's tired, he's catching his breath. Now he's gonna tell Franklin a little flashback story of the of good people on the ship. Camera pans up. So here's a flashback of Colonel fighting a galactic overlord. They engage in a pretty intense battle. Oops. Colonel flips him over, stands tall as the overlord's on the ground on the other side. Camera pans up, sees Colonel as he's gloating in his short victory, and then Colonel crouches down and initiates his special move. His special move is where his eye bulges out, and it shoots out. That's just like a beam blast, and then it cuts back to the current present. And then Colonel checks Franklin if Franklin's paying attention or is impressed. Here's Franklin's expression. Colonel's displeased, and he's kind of upset that Franklin's not impressed. And he gets back to the story. He explains that the person he was fighting was like a notorious galactic overlord, conquered many planets. That's the overlord ripping the flag of the Federation. And here's the overlord showing the conquest of just spearing through a planet. And then it cuts to the POV of Franklin and Colonel as they see the janitor. And it turns out the janitor is the overlord. And I'm still working out the ending, but that's pretty much all I have so far.
All right, finish it.
Okay.
Make sure you sequence this thing properly and put a PDF in the class properly.
Right.
It's very unique. You had, I don't know if you saw it, but all your classmates were laughing at your eyeball gag.
I'm pretty proud of that one. That was my favorite one.
Your chat thing was going crazy there for a second, so check that out.
All right.
All right, so a couple of you didn't present. I'm looking for Aaron. Aaron's got his microphone off. Damien. Who was here and then disappeared. So I'll just expect those to be in the classroom. I can't give them full credit for being late. Again, if you want to go through the notes that I gave you and make any kind of adjustments, I believe the deadline for this upload was Friday, if you need it. You don't have to if you don't want to. And you don't have to, well, if anyone does want to put a revision up in there, just shoot me an email so I know to look at it and find it, right? Because then that way you're covered rather than just letting it sit out there in the nether world. All right, and then just to reiterate, I really like this idea of just doing one shot. I think that it's challenging. I think that it forces you to be creative. You can just take a deep breath and go, I only need 2 characters, and those could be brand new characters. You can pretend that you're doing this for Bird Box, and like do one of their little dogs. To me, that it looks like it was either done in Photoshop or TV Paint or Toon Boom or something like that, and it was animated just like pencil on paper. But anything that's animated needs to have a storyboard, and it can be as short as you would like to. And this is technically the essence of one gag. I'm not quite convinced that I would switch this earlier. Like in the semester, we started out by doing The Boy Who Drew Cats, and that was pretty intense of a story, and that was to get you all to realize that other cultures do have their own fairy tales. Fairy tales don't just come from Europe. That's a falsehood. China, Japan, every country, every culture in the world has their own fairy tales. And that's just making you aware of that. And then throwing Pinocchio at you was good. And I think that now doing this little one shot, knowing what you know, having been beaten into you about line of action and establishing shots and, you know, shot by shot by shot. Now you're like, oh, I don't have any shots. So I expect that you can just go as crazy and as interesting and cartoony as you want. But look at Atomic Monsters and all of those things from Bird Box. There's, like I said, there's 15 to 20 of them. They're all really good. All right. Questions, comments, complaints, conundrums, criticisms, anything else that starts with a hard C sound? Nothing?
50.
Yeah, we will, I would expect whatever ideas, keep it pantomime, no dialogue, right? No dialogue whatsoever. It's all action. It's all pantomime. I would expect the idea, whatever the script is, and then thumbnails for next week. Maps, thumbnails. You could even start doing boards if you wanted to. Okay, got it?
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. I'll have a recording this up on YouTube later on.